let's dive right into this explainer on Docker Pi. We're building on what we already know about the cloud and jumping into the absolutely essential world of application containerization. Today, we are looking at a really cool Python library that lets you control Docker directly from your own code. So by the end of our time together, you're going to totally get what Docker is, why it's a massive deal in modern software development, and exactly how you can command it programmatically. Quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start by moving beyond standard virtual environments, then we'll break down images versus containers. After that, we dive right into Docker Pi, figure out Docker files and custom images, and wrap it all up with some advanced deployment and monitoring. Basically, we're going from the classic works on my machine problem all the way to orchestrating fully automated multi-container deployments. All right, part one, beyond virtual environments. We need to tackle a pretty deep foundational problem here. It's something we've bumped into before, and honestly, regular virtual environments just cannot fix it alone. Think about how virtual environments work. They are great at isolating specific Python packages so your projects don't clash, right? But here's the catch. They still share the exact same underlying operating system. So what happens when your app needs a really specific system-level library and your colleague's laptop just doesn't have it? Everything breaks. Well, that is exactly where Docker steps in. Instead of just sandboxing your packages, Docker bundles your whole application, the exact Python version you need, and all those underlying OS libraries into one completely self-contained, totally portable unit. Moving on to part two, images versus containers. If we want to truly master Docker, we absolutely have to get the difference between these two core concepts straight, right out of the gate. Let's start with the image. A Docker image is basically a static, read-only blueprint. It tells the system exactly what a container should actually hold. Think back to our conversations about scikit-learn. A Docker image is incredibly similar to a class in object-oriented programming. It's just the pure static definition of a thing, not the thing itself. Now, a container, on the other hand, is the genuinely running instance of that static blueprint. It's the thing actually executing on your machine. So if the image is the class, the container is the living, breathing instance of that class. It's the active environment doing the heavy lifting on your computer or server. The relationship here is super straightforward. The static blueprint is used to spin up the running instance. Image equals class definition, container equals active instance. Honestly, once you completely grasp this distinction, it literally unlocks every single thing we're going to cover today. Okay, part three, enter Docker Pi. We've got the theory down, so let's get to the fun part. How do we actually take control of this using Python? We're going to directly command Docker using the Docker Pi library. You'll notice the workflow here feels really familiar. It's just like the cloud client patterns we saw with Boto 3. First, you just install the library with a quick pip install docker. Next, you spin up a client by calling docker.from_env. That little command automatically hooks into the Docker installation already running locally on their machine. And finally, you launch your instances using client.containers.run. It is just that clean and straightforward. And here is where it becomes incredibly powerful. Picture this. Instead of manually installing a complex database, stressing over system paths, messing with user permissions, configuring background services, you just run one single command. That command automatically downloads and spins up a completely functional, perfectly isolated PostgreSQL database. No edit. And you can do the exact same thing for a Redis cache, or really any other external service your app might need. Part 4. Docker files and custom images. So, pulling pre-existing images off the shelf is fantastic. But what about our own apps? We need to know how to define our very own custom images. Whenever you want to build a custom image, you are going to need a Docker file. Basically, a Docker file is just a plain text file, but it acts as your personal blueprint, telling Docker exactly how to construct your image, step by careful step. Building this out requires a pretty precise execution order. Step 1, you have to establish a starting base image. You typically pick something like an official Python image, just so you don't have to rebuild an entire operating system from scratch. Step 2, you copy your specific project files directly into that image. And step 3, you run whatever commands you need to install your dependencies, like a standard pip install. The best part? Once your Docker file is written, Docker Pi makes the actual build process entirely effortless. You just pass your project path into the client.images.build command, Docker Pi jumps in, reads the Docker file, and automatically constructs a brand new custom image for you. It follows your exact steps, perfectly mirroring the blueprint you laid out. Now, why do we go through all this trouble? Well, it's for this absolute guarantee. Once it's built, your image is going to run completely identically, regardless of whatever particular computer it happens to be running on. This is huge. It completely eliminates that dreaded, well, it works on my machine excuse, and it does it at the deepest operating system level. It doesn't matter if it's your laptop, your teammate's desktop, or a remote production server. The environment is literally identical. All right, part 5, advanced deployment and monitoring. Let's see how we scale this whole thing up and monitor it when we're dealing with complex multi-container applications. DockerPy is absolutely fantastic when you're writing Python scripts, but we've also got to talk about its closely related cousin, Docker Compose. Docker Compose relies on YAML files, which, as we know, are amazing for handling really complex, deeply nested configurations. Compose basically acts as an orchestrator, allowing multiple interconnected containers to run and communicate with each other simultaneously. Let's picture a totally realistic professional setup. Say you've got a fast API web application built from a custom Docker file, plus a PostgreSQL database container, and maybe a Redis cache container. Without Compose, setting that up is a chore, but with a Docker Compose YAML file, a teammate can spin up that entire interconnected architecture with just one single command. Everything launches, configures itself, and starts talking to each other automatically. Of course, running apps means eventually you're going to have to debug them. For everyday monitoring and error handling, grabbing logs programmatically is an absolute lifesaver when something inside your container goes sideways. Using DockerPy, you just call container.logs, and boom, you pull the critical debugging output right out of that completely isolated environment. And if you want the ultimate deployment pipeline, you start combining your tools. Think about this. You use a library like Fabric to securely connect to a remote server over SSH. Then you leverage DockerPy on that remote machine to pull down your application's latest image and restart the containers. Suddenly, you've orchestrated this incredibly powerful, fully automated deployment workflow. So, to quickly summarize our absolute best practices, definitely use Docker to guarantee identically reproducible environments anywhere you deploy. Make sure you leverage Docker Compose whenever your app depends on multiple interconnected services. And finally, combine DockerPy with tools like Fabric to totally master your automated deployment pipelines. Which leaves us with this final, crucial question. Since DockerPy, Fabric, and basically all modern cloud infrastructure rely so heavily on remote secure connections, are you ready to master the underlying SSH protocol itself? Our very next explainer is going to cover Paramiko, a library that lets you implement that SSH protocol directly. You definitely want to stick around for that, plus the 27 other packages we still have coming up. Thanks so much for diving into this with us today.